No, it didn't. There it goes. Hey, everybody. My name is Aaron Shane. Welcome to Habitat Now, and I'm honored to have you join me for August's NGG presentation celebrating the work of Elena Esposito. We will get to her and her work in 1 second. It's an honor to have you join me. This is a lot of fun to continue Not Grandma's Glass into the Future, which focuses on the future of art. I can't believe we're already towards the end of the summer. Time is flying by. And as we proceed every single month through NGG, we learn about so many artists that we may have no idea about and watch them talk about their life, their career, and work. So it's an honor to have you join me. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen real quick. It's a button right there. And let's go with a little bit of housekeeping real quick. We do these Zooms every Saturday at 1 o'clock. Usually the NGG ones are around the first of the month, and every artist has been invited as of last year. So, and at the end of NGG, 4 artists will be selected to participate next year. And it's been a lot of fun to see the year over, where the artists have been over the last year. And we're going to participate with the winners of 2023 very, very soon. So if you ever want to join these Zooms on our Facebook, on our Habitat page at habitat.com, there's a button that says Zoom. If you click on it, you'll get the RSVP. We do send out emails, so be aware of those as well. And you're welcome to come every weekend live or watch these on YouTube. And if you're doing that, like, subscribe, hit that bell, and share this with people who know love art. Glass 52 exhibitions on display. It is an incredible thing to see. We had a huge run of people coming yesterday due to a local newspaper ad bringing people in. There's over like 300 works on display. We're going through a little construction right now, but this gallery is open, so feel free to come visit and see the show. We are launching the Blown Away Shop, Habitat Blown Away Shop, offering works directly from artists at fun and reasonable prices. So more about that. We'll have more announcements soon, but it is up online at, I think it's at habitatgallery.com or Habitat Shop. We just offered an exclusive of the work of Dan Alexander. Check your emails. Those just went out recently. It's just a new talent like Elena that has come into our Habitat family. We're excited about the work, so I just want to give them a shout out during this presentation. And a big thing coming up is the Habitat Glass Tour going to Seattle. Over the last, I don't know, couple of years, we've been going out of the country. This is the first time we're in the country, taking our clients to Seattle, going to see museums, private institutions, and glass artist studios. So it's something you should be part of. The space is filling up fast. Contact me for more details. It's an incredible thing to see. These are all the details, but you can't read it. We'll send you an email if you're interested in learning more about it. So back to NGG. It's great to have you, Elena, join me for this show, and we're eager to learn about your life, career, and work. So say hi to everybody.
Hi, I'm Elena.
Okay, perfect. Great to have you. So go ahead and take over your screen. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. There's a price list available. Feel free to email me to get the price list. And we first discovered Elena's work at the GAS conference last year, walking into the student show, I believe it was, or one of the glass shows they had. We saw 3 little crackers sitting on a pedestal. And I could have sworn it was just crackers, but someone tapped me on the shoulder and told me that it was actually glass, and I immediately invited her to participate in NGG. And Elena, take it away. I'm looking forward to learning more about your life, career, and work.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, Aaron, for having me. It's really an honor to be selected as one of your artists this year. And I'm really excited to share my work with you all. So my name's Elena Esposito. I'm a glass and ceramic artist and studio technician. I currently live in Oak Park, Michigan, which is the little red dot. But I'm originally from a small town in northern Michigan called Harbor Springs, and it's the little blue dot. I graduated from the College for Creative Studies in Detroit in May of 2023. Since then, I have worked as a ceramic technician at a community center in Farmington Hills. This is me at my school studio. This was a picture taken by my dad. This was at the beginning of the year, my senior year. So it's a little less chaotic than it ended up being towards the end of the year. But this was all of my stuff and my materials on one side and everything.
I like the pumpkins. It's nice.
Thank you. So my work is heavily based on experimentation and process. You'll see that when I show most of my finished pieces, I also show a lot of process pictures. I think it's really important to highlight all the materials and aspects that went into a piece so that someone can fully appreciate the final outcome. I'm also very focused on craftsmanship and technique, I mainly utilize molds, primarily kiln forming methods. However, you'll see a few blown pieces as well. Those were made with the help of my friend Anna and classmate. I enjoy exploring technical limitations and finding ways to stretch or accommodate them while still respecting and staying within material boundaries. So this piece on the left was made by weaving together rope and then making a mold from that rope and slumping it over a sheet glass, or slumping sheet glass over the mold, sorry. And then the piece on the right was a series I did where I would take different flowers and layer powder over them to see how they burned and what residue was left at different temperatures. The following pieces are a collection from my senior thesis work, my BFA collection that I completed last year. It revolves around replicating everyday objects in glass and ceramic. I believe that some of the best textures, colors, and forms and surfaces are found in our everyday lives and generally are overlooked. So this particular body of work aims to highlight these details through precise replication. These were my saltines. They were made from glass powder and the process of pâte de verre. The bag, however, is just a plastic bag. So there were 5 different colors that I used to make them that I mixed myself from bullseye glass powders. So this picture on the left were the 20 color tests that I did for the crackers. Each cracker contained 5 colors that I mixed from commercial glass. And then the calculations are 2 different combinations that I used and came up with. They have really specific percentages for each color, as you can see. I was actually really inspired by Joanna. A year before I came to CCS, she was there and made this really beautiful color chart for pâte de verre with mixing ratios, and it's hung up in our school, and I was really inspired by that, and that's what inspired me to start with these color tests. This is a video of me just mixing one of the colors. So here I'm just measuring out each color to a really specific measurement in grams. You can see on the left that there's like a mold. That's the mold I used for all of my testing. And then after I would pour the colors into the little cup, mix them, and then put them in the mold. So this is the hammer I did. The handle is actually the original handle from the hammer I took to make the mold for the head. The head is made from uranium glass. A lot of pieces I make incorporate one of the original manufactured or original parts for the final piece. That's because I like to show for size reference that it's still applicable, as well as I think it helps lend to the replication aspect. It's spray painted pink because all of my tools in the studio were spray painted pink so that everybody knew they were mine and people wouldn't take them. That's why it's spray painted pink. So this is a Sharpie. It's made from ceramic and it's slip casted. It was then painted with underglaze that I had mixed. It was lightly glazed and then sandblasted, and a ceramic decal was used for the logo. The pencils are just pencils for pictures. The picture on the left is a king-size Sharpie next to a ceramic one before it was bisqued. And then the picture on the right are 2 different color variations. They're actually the same color, just at different firing temperatures, as well as sizes that I decided to use. These are decal tests I did for the decal that went on the Sharpie. In the end, when you traditionally use ceramic decals, The transfer paper has a white film on the back. I didn't want to use the white film because I felt like it took away from the replication aspect. So I couldn't use the transfer paper. I ended up having to experiment with different ways to make a different transfer. So I used a clear spray coat like you would use for spray paint, and let that dry on there and took it off with that instead. These are glass Band-Aids I made. They are just glass, made with glass powder. It's a little hard to tell in the picture, but they do have a Band-Aid texture on them. The picture on the left is how they would come out of the mold. And then the picture on the right, I would grind them down on a flat lap. And that's the picture, and that's the thickness they would come down to. There is a reason I had to use that much glass. And I will talk about that. So this is the progression I went through with my Band-Aids. The little dot is the original color test I did. And then it goes through the variations of shapes, colors, and forms. Originally, the glass wasn't picking up my texture very well, and it wasn't filling in the entire mold, as you can see from some of these earlier Band-Aids. This is why I had to switch to using more glass. The more glass weighed down the mold, or weighed down into the mold, and it allowed me to pick up the texture. And so then I just ended up grinding it off. This Gatorade pack is another example of using original materials. The Gatorade bottles themselves are blown, so they're glass. And then the caps, label, and plastic rings are all from real Gatorade packs. So the bottles are blown glass, and then the liquid is denatured alcohol with food coloring, blue #1 and yellow #5.
Do you have to put do not drink next to your work or do not eat?
They are glued on with epoxy
Ah,
so that they don't mold or anything. That's why denatured alcohol is used.
mhm.
So
Nice.
luckily you can't drink out of them. These were the molds that I used. This is a very well-loved mold. I went through several of the Gatorade molds, but this was one of the more used ones. And then these were how the Gatorade bottles came out of the annealer. Again, with a lot of my work, they don't look super realistic when it originally comes out of the kiln or the annealer. It takes some surface manipulation, some coal working to get to that final stage, which is another aspect of it I really enjoy. So obviously the necks have to get cut off of these. But that is one of the parts that I like a lot. I really enjoy surface manipulation. This is a ceramic toolbox I made. So the top 2 pictures are the ceramic toolbox, and the bottom 2 pictures are the original toolbox that the mold was made from. This was a toolbox that my dad had given me, and it no longer exists, unfortunately, because of the mold. But so the lid and the bottom are ceramic. However, the hardware is the original hardware. So when I say hardware, I mean that the clips, so the metal, and then the handle and the screws that screw into the top are the original hardware. You can pick it up and everything. The top slip casted and the bottom is hand built. This was a slip cast mold. This gave me a lot of trouble. It was a lot more difficult than I expected it to be, but it was a really great learning experience. I found a lot of similarities between slip casting and casting with glass, and it's taught me a lot. And that's actually why I took slip casting in the first place, was to get better with my glass molds. This is the toolbox lid before it was fired, and then after it was fired for the first time, but before it was glazed. So again, a lot of surface manipulation after the fact. These are some glass paper towels. These are ones where if you flipped it over, it would be pretty obvious that it's not a paper towel because the back is actually clear. So these were made from rondelles and they were slumped onto the mold. And so the top is just an opaque white and the back is clear. This was me in the studio painting onto the mold with wax. I didn't end up making a mother mold for this, for the rubber, because I wanted to be able to flex and move the mold in whatever shape I wanted to make the paper towel. So I'm using the bricks here to hold it into a certain place. Um, and I'm sure I'm doing this late at night, and that's why I'm not doing it in the foundry, but and on the floor. But that is why it's doesn't have a mother mold and why I'm flexing it in a certain way. This is where you can tell that it's from a rondelle. This is when it came right out of the kiln. So it's done right on, slumped right into the form. But you can see here on the sides that it's clear on the back. And then I took it on a saw and would cut it and then on a lathe and grind the edges a little bit to make them smoother. These were a ton of iterations that I went through between different glasses, sheet glass, oceanside, bullseye, powders, Reichenbach, bullseye, different transparents to see what picked up the best texture, what looked the most realistic, what shape I liked the best. These were just a few of them. I went through a lot of different paper towels. This was my blanket. This is actually a replication of my blanket from when I was a little kid. It was a really big challenge for me. Doing all of this in 8 months was a big challenge for me, but this specifically, I couldn't quite figure out how to get it all to stay in the mold. So this wasn't exactly how I wanted to turn out, but I really valued the experience of learning how to do this and, figuring out how to make it all work. The picture on the left is me filling in the mold in the kiln. I had to spend 3 hours doing this, and so I spent a lot of time in this kiln. Picture on the right is the mold. Was a lot of powdering and sifting, just spending time in there. So this was the original intention for the mold, and for the piece in general. I wanted to sit on top of my toolbox, but I didn't have enough time to figure out how to make it fire and sit without it being super thick. And then the picture on the right was what I wanted my border to look like. My original blanket has a silk border, so that's what I wanted it to be. But again, the time constraint of school really pushed me with a lot of these projects. These were all of my different glass tests. They were to figure out which glass would, again, pick up the best texture. They range from bullseye sheet glass, oceanside sheet glass, powder, Reichenbach powder, rondelles, blowing rod, all different options. You can't totally tell in this picture, but some definitely pick up better than others. I think that the rondelle picked up the best, but I wasn't able to make quite that big of a rondelle. This is a Pedialyte bottle. I used the original cap and label for the Pedialyte, and then the expiration date is a ceramic decal. The picture on the left is how they come out of the annealer. So again, the necks have to be cut. For those of you who aren't familiar with a Pedialyte bottle, they have a bit of a film on them, so they're not totally transparent. So it needed to be sandblasted, but sandblasting was a bit too rough. So I needed a finish on top. So the picture on the right, the bottle standing up has linseed oil finish on it, and the bottle laying down has antibiotic ointment rubbed on it and rubbed in. I decided to go with the antibiotic ointment, and that would work the best. These pill bottles were the only piece in this collection that got to incorporate both glass and ceramic, so I really enjoyed that. The lids are ceramic and the bottles are glass. The label is just an adhesive label that I then photoshopped to make it look like a real label. The pills were flame worked. This is a comparison between the colors. I got really lucky with my color here and didn't have to mix it. Reichenbach just happened to have a color that was exactly what I needed. The receipts, these are my glass receipts. I made these with ceramic decals as well, and a really thin coat of powder. They're pretty flexible. They kind of wave when you wave them up and down, but these are really fun to make. They're just thin coat of powder and a ceramic decal on top, and then were put on a mold. This was the molds that I used. They were made from just aluminum foil, and then I poured plaster over top the aluminum foil to get a good texture. I wanted them to look like crinkled up receipts. And then this was a variation of receipts that I went through. Again, different glasses, different companies, different opacities. This was the rice. The Tupperware is just a plastic Tupperware. The rice is made from silicone and frit, and the spoon is ceramic with a metallic finish or a mirror finish on it. I went through a lot of different ways of making this rice. The first one was crushing the glass up with a glass mallet crusher and then picking up the pieces on the ground that looked like rice, and that was super effective. Then I went to flame working the rice, but I've not flame worked a ton, and we don't really have the tools for that in school, so that that took too long as well. I tried firing the silicone and frit in a hot box at different temperatures, but I kept on getting black carbon residue, which also didn't look like rice. So I ended up doing this, which was putting silicone in water and soap, balling it up, and then rolling it into clear frit, and then putting it in a potato ricer and putting it in long strips, and then using a sharp razor blade and cutting it at really precise angles that I decided were the right angle for rice, and then kind of rolling it in my fingers and cutting each piece of rice individually. And that's how and then waiting for the silicone to set up. This is the Map Gaps torch. It's made in a ceramic slip cast, and then some underglaze, mirrored pigment, wax, and the original label is also on there. This torch was super fun to make. I had a lot of different materials that I got to use to make it look realistic, and I was able to get a pretty successful result in not as long of a time as the other ones took me, which was very nice. I mixed the yellow color from just underglaze, and I was really pleased with how this one came out. All of our map gases in the studio were covered in wax from the glass blowers and a lot of dirt. So I had fun putting all this kind of wax on it and stuff. The picture on the left is some of the variations I went through of color and just different adhesives and stuff to put on it. And then the picture on the right is me making the slip cast mold. So these shadow boxes were made for my final show to display all the samples and pieces, or samples for my pieces that I made. I kept track of all of them and what glasses they were, why I used them, and there's a nice little packet that I made with all the information in it. I really struggled during my time at school to find a way to display and show process in an effective way where other people would care about it. And it took me until I think the end of my senior year to figure out how to do that. So this was my final display. It's not the greatest picture, but people really engaged with both of these, the samples and the final piece. So the samples are on the wall. My toolbox sample are lids, and then the shadow boxes, and the front is the table with all my finished pieces. And everybody engaging with this was really cool and a great experience for me. I really worked hard to make people appreciate and understand craftsmanship and technique and how important that was to me during school. And I feel like people really paid attention to that during my senior show, and I really appreciated that. And that was a really good feeling for me. So I think that was really important. So I want to thank you all for joining me, and Erin for the opportunity to talk and share my work with you all. It's been a really great experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. We stop sharing your screen. Got a question for you. So, what draws you to everyday objects in your work? Where does that desire come from?
This is what you.
Go ahead.
What draws me to everyday objects?
Hey, go ahead.
I think just that there's just a lot of natural beauty and textures and colors in everyday objects. I'm not really sure what draws me to everyday objects, though, being totally honest. There's a lot of things that I'll see and I'll be like, I really want to make a mold of that, and I'd really love to replicate it.
That makes sense. You kind of draw to the world around you, and
Yeah.
and then you start developing your thoughts on how you can do it, and then you test and test and test and test and test and test. It seems like.
Yeah.
And then you identify with these things. Do you like if there's certain things you find you can't do that you want to, in a way?
I had a lot of things that I tried to make my senior year that I could not make. There's a lot of things I tried to, like, I would try to make a medicine container. I tried to make a toothbrush. I tried to like all of these random things that were just not successful, and couldn't do it.
The way it is. It's interesting. Like I look at a lot of the things you make, and I think of the different artists I know in the world, and how many of them could help you, with their own styles, their things that they've learned. Like a lot of it busted to Dan Clayman in my head because he's such a mechanical mold maker and craftsman that he's totally different, but he loves it. Would love the challenge. Someone to think about in the future. And so, you also make things true to scale. Is that important?
I just think that it's because I make everything from a mold, and since I really want things to be exact to the replication, if they're coming from a mold, I use the object to make the mold. So therefore, it's going to be the same size as what the mold was.
Right, it's part of the process.
Yeah.
Where you are. Well, this is exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing what you create next. I know you're between places and trying to find more places to find work. If anybody has any ideas of where she can continue crafting or go and learn with somebody, please share, because we'd love to continue, because we're excited about her career. Seeing these crackers live on display was just kind of mind-blowing, that someone take the effort to make something so simple and so thought less about into something precious. And the potential there is insane because it's relatable to everybody. And that's what's kind of fun about this. Well, we have a price list of work that's available by Elena. Feel free to contact me for that list. And this will be on YouTube for people to like and share. And I look forward to sharing more of Elena's work with you in the future. Thank you all for joining me today. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Elena.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Have a great weekend. See you soon. Bye-bye.